Hello, I am Felicia Tomasco. I'm the editor-in-chief at LA Yoga Magazine, and I am honored to be here today with Natalie Pace, best-selling author of Put Your Money Where Your Heart Is, as well as a number of other books about sustainability, finance, and just how to live a life where you're connecting your values and your actions. She's the co-founder of the Earth Gratitude Project, and she has some ebooks on Amazon that are free right now through November 4th. So I first met Natalie at a Women's History Museum event, and we started a conversation like we were old friends, and that friendship has continued through work in a number of different arenas, and we're super happy to be able to have this conversation on this platform today. Thank you so much, Natalie.
Thank you. And I'm remembering back that one of the first brain trust meetings for the Earth Gratitude Project was with you and Bobby Wisdom. Remember back in the day?
Yes.
So, we've talked about the value of community. So I think that's a big piece of this equation. I want to today we're talking obviously about, put your money where your heart is, the importance of that. Also timely because of course that ebook is free, as is the ABCs of money. But I wanted to also say is that, it is COP26. So our world leaders are convening in Glasgow, Scotland to, basically, the statistics are very dire, right? And we have to talk about, how not to be almost paralysis by overanalysis. And I think that's the real key of what we want to talk about today. And there are three things that can help us to engage the power of almost 8 billion individuals. 8 billion of us are powerful if we're doing the right thing. 8 billion of us can meet this challenge if we understand how we can meet it. And today we're going to talk about 3 tips that can help engage the power of almost 8 billion people.
I love this emphasis on engaging the power of 8 billion people, because sometimes we look at the way our world leaders are meeting, what governments are doing, and it can be easy to forget. It can be easy to end up like deer in headlights and forget the actions that we can take and what we can lead with. So I'd love for you to talk about the importance of us as individuals leading with gratitude as our personal value system, and how gratitude can help us make choices that relate to living a life of sustainability.
All right, and I love that we're starting off with this. So just as kind of an overview for everybody, what we are going to talk about mainly is this idea of gratitude and how important it is for each of us to achieve personal net zero, not just to rely on our leaders to do it, and the power of putting our money where our heart is. So starting with earth gratitude. When we think about, or we talk about these daunting statistics that weigh on our hearts, but also, really make us angry at other people, right? Angry at others. And we talk sometimes about trying to have hope instead of despair. We hear a lot of leaders say, let's have hope, not despair. I think that it's more powerful to say, forget about hope versus despair. Let's have gratitude for our home planet. Because the essence of gratitude, when you treasure something, you treat it differently. It was funny because I was just thinking about this. It's like everything you do, even things that you're not happy about, you're happy to do. So think about like changing a baby's diaper. Like normally kind of a disgusting idea, right? But if it's for your baby and you're so in love with them, you do it because you don't want their bum to be dirty, right? So the same kind of idea about our home planet. Like if all of a sudden we're in love with our home planet and we value her, we don't want her skies dirty. We don't want, all these things that are happening to happen. And we actually see where our own actions are in alignment or out of alignment with that overarching vision. So I say gratitude fueling is what's going to engage the power of 8 billion, because of each one of us is doing that. And look, there are going to be small things in our lives that we notice that are very easy to fix, like Please do not get a grab and go cup at your local favorite. It doesn't even matter. We mentioned in our earlier discussion one company, but honestly, I was taking a walk down Montana Avenue in Santa Monica, and there's a bunch of coffee companies there, you know, some small, some new, some hip, some chic, some mom and pop, and all of them, there was somebody out front with a paper tossable paper cup, you know, so that's a big deal. And I do want to quote that statistic. 16 billion paper cups are tossed every year. That's 6.5 million trees and, you know, literally millions of gallons of water wasted as well.
I think your paper cup example is a great illustration that each one of us can take individual actions that can amplify with that power of 6 billion. And in terms of those
Eight,
oh, yes,
eight,
8 billion.
almost 8
Yes.
billion,
Don't
right? How fast
forget.
did that change? How fast did that change? It's powerful because by the time, you know, by the time 2050 comes around, it's probably 10. So yeah,
Right. Thank you so
yeah.
much for pointing that out and the importance of amplifying our individual actions times 8 billion. Right. So we can definitely make a change. And related to that, one of the things that I've heard you talk about a lot is this idea of net zero and personal net zero. It's something that you mention in the Earth Gratitude Project. It's something you talk about in your website. You know, it's something we're talking about globally related to climate change. But what does that net zero mean to start with? And then what are some actions that we can take to bring ourselves closer, you know, moving in that direction to that personal net zero?
Okay, great. I love this one because it brings us in so like this holistic circle, right? So, what basically net zero means is that you are not emitting more carbon than you are replacing or finding ways to mitigate. So, for example, if you drove your car, you could plant a tree. Now, that's not realistic, but what might be realistic would be deciding that you're going to telecommute from work 2 or 3 days a week. If you do work far from home, maybe finding a way that you can sleep on a cot the nights you're there so you don't have, you know, 3 1-hour commutes each way. You know, we have the example on the Earth Gratitude website of a Cirque du Soleil performer, filmmaker, who was really out of alignment with driving for an hour each day to teach his yoga classes and living in Las Vegas, which was a very unsustainable lifestyle, and deciding with his wife and his son to create an off-grid solar home in British Columbia, living in harmony with nature. Now that is kind of like the biggest example of how you could do this, right? But it inspires us that, again, I think what happened with this family was that overarching discovery of how much they treasure the earth. They had a month in the Sacred Valley of Peru, and it profoundly impacted their lives. And when they came back to Vegas, everything they did, from driving to teach yoga to buying organic food, wrapped in plastic, all of that was out of alignment with their values. So getting to personal net zero, again, getting to that goal is going to be difficult. Look, as a planet, they're saying if we don't do it by 2050, all of us, that, you know, things are over basically. But you know, it would get there faster if each one of us decided this year I'm cutting my own personal by 30% and I'm going to find ways to offset as well. As an example, and again, you know, the my books are free now through November 4th. The Earth Gratitude ebooks are free always. So there's a lot of great examples in there of people that are doing that. There's a project in Las Vegas again of an organization called Green Our Planet, and they harness the power of parents. They take out grass, the carpet of grass in the children's schools. They leave one grassy playing field for the kids to play kickball on. They use the savings of all that because it's expensive to water all that grass in a desert. They use the savings of all of that to put in learning gardens where the children grow their own food. Their meals are now organic and actually have produce. The kids like eating fresh food that they grow. Kids like eating it. I went to look at Alice Waters' edible schoolyard in Berkeley, and I asked one of the kids there what was her favorite thing to eat, and she said kale pesto.
That's pretty amazing if you think about it, that a kid's favorite food to eat from the garden is kale pesto. And
That they make themselves.
well, and that's also a testament to what does it mean to actually try things, not just have a preconceived notion of what we might like or dislike, but actually try it. And in thinking about that personal net zero, maybe we're not planting a tree, but maybe we're composting.
Yes.
Maybe we're planting even a small garden where we live. Maybe it's a window garden. Maybe it's some more plants. Maybe it's, you know, cultivating some trees in our backyard or something in a pot. Maybe we can try making our own kale pesto.
Maybe it's supporting the local farmers market or creating one if you don't have one. Maybe it's choosing organic food and asking the local retailer not to wrap it in plastic. There was a young, in fact, this school in Poundbury, England, they won Eco School of the Year from Jane Goodall's Roots and Shoots program. And they asked the people that delivered their school food not to wrap it in plastic. And they stopped wrapping it in plastic. It's been amazing what these kids have been able to do. I call them England's most powerful green lobby, and if you want a link to that, we'll put it in there in the Facebook group. Just remind me that we got to do that. They're very inspiring. So all over the world there are people that are doing inspiring things that are a piece of the puzzle. So what if we ask ourselves, hey, this year I give myself a challenge of 30% reduction in my carbon emissions, my personal carbon emissions. It can be driving the car less, maybe walking and taking a backpack for all the little errands that we do, and getting small. Like I might visit the grocery store more frequently than other people because I only will take my backpack for shopping bags, right? If I can't carry it in my backpack, it can't come home. So one day it might be olive oil and peanut butter, and the next day it might be all the produce I need, right? um, it could be that. It could be maybe I'm going to insulate my home better. If I'm working from home, maybe I'm going to choose a room that has natural sunlight. Maybe it's going to be that, again, it could be food choices or composting choices. It could be once you apply your own oxygen mask, then start looking at your community, right? It could be, I remember 3 or 4 years ago, I rode the bird down to City Hall to make sure that they didn't outlaw micromobility in Santa Monica. Today we have big bike lanes, and 20 years ago when I was riding my bike to Santa Monica College, it was perilous, really. Things can change.
Things can definitely change. And I think it also relates to how much each one of us participates. And it's how can we integrate these ideas of sustainability into our day, like composting, speaking of Santa Monica, where there's citywide composting programs. And there it's no excuse, it's just our participation. Can we participate in the things that are already around us? Can we even see what's happening around us and
And
participate?
and that's where, our power, our back to our conversation about community, is that sometimes it's just we're not aware. I know there are so many people who live in Santa Monica that are not aware that your composting goes in the same bin as the yard waste. It's that easy, right? And by the way, there's composting in New York City, there's composting in Seattle. This is a very easy thing for people to do, and it can even be a way for people to earn money. Like uh, Poundbury, in that same school, that won the Roots and Shoots Award, they have their own composting going on. They have like a lot of things going on. So again, once you do one thing, it then becomes the way life is, and you can look to the next thing, right? And that's what I mean by this idea of personal net zero. Okay, it's not going to happen overnight. But if your goal is, if the overarching vision is, I love my planet, and so anything that's out of resonance with showing gratitude for the love I have for this beautiful blue ball that we call home, I'm gonna honor that, right? Like when it comes flying in at me and it says, okay, you're driving your car right now, for an hour? Do you need to do this as much as you do it? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to say that I can fix it overnight, but I know that by addressing it and honoring that that's true and not shirking from it and not ignoring it, that there are solutions. And again, it may not, when I was first, dreaming up the Earth Gratitude project with my two co-creators, I came to you, I came to Bobby. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? You can do the same thing in your own quest for personal net zero when you're honest with yourself about things that are out of alignment. And even if it's a big freaking deal to you, you can start thinking about solutions, and you can ask your community of trusted brain, your brain trust. And you may be surprised at how much delight the solutions will add to your life. And then that becomes the way life is. And then you can just go on to another new wonderful adventure.
And that brings me to the topic of one of your books, which is Put Your Money Where Your Heart Is. And
Yeah.
that sense of heartfelt connection, that sense of leading with gratitude, that sense of finding these personal net zero pathway actions that we can take. So what's something in terms of this idea of putting your money where your heart that is a guiding principle for you?
Well, I'm going to tell you, when you put your money where your heart is, you're going to have more money. So, as an example, like if you simply chose mass transit and micromobility and maybe using a ride share every now and again when you absolutely needed it over a car, unless, of course, you have a major commute, you could save thousands of dollars annually. That tip came from the mayor of Santa Monica. He has 4 people in the family, 2 cars, and they ride bikes most everywhere. He said they cut their costs in half. Also, the average person spends about $7,500 per year on their auto when you consider the car payment, the insurance, the maintenance, and the gasoline. Gasoline alone can be $2,000 a year for a lot of people. So that's one thing. Other people, like we said, if you live in a sunny state, you have rooftop solar, you could cut your electric bill down to $35 a month. That's more money in your budget. And then if you extend it even farther and start thinking about aligning your investments with the things that you believe are promoting our world rather than the polluters, that's going to actually bring you more money too. If you think about it very logically, right? You wouldn't be investing in the typewriter today. It seems quite obvious, right? But the truth is, the NASDAQ Composite Index, which holds most of the younger companies, versus the Dow Jones Industrial Average, which has most of our last century companies, many of which are polluters, has tripled the gains, almost tripled the gains of the Dow, the NASDAQ versus the Dow over a 3-year period. So putting your money where your heart is and leaning into the world of tomorrow actually is very profitable. So whether it's bringing you thousands of dollars of savings in your budget from money that you don't give, imagine how much more joy you're going to have, speaking of gratitude, if you had thousands that you could spend on things you really cared about instead of at the gas pump or on your electric bill. Or you see what I'm saying? It's amazing. And again, it does require you looking at it, and it does require you saying, I'm going to change this. And I will give you one more tip, although we don't have to go all the way down the rabbit hole on this, is that it's not as easy as just asking your broker to invest in socially conscious companies. It's not just as easy as that, because every company today is going to tell you they're socially conscious, even if they're one of the worst polluters, because that's a buzzword.
Well, I think that that's a reminder too, that you can't just say, oh, hey, just make sure I'm invested in this. There is that work that we have to do too, in terms of aligning value and action. And that can be, we have to apply reading labels to investing the same way we apply reading labels to what we buy. And I think this is, so valuable. So I want to just thank you for your time. This is obviously a topic that we could talk about for days and days and days. And the books and everything that you have offer people the opportunity to talk about it for days and days and days. So please go to your website, nataliepace.com. Your ebooks are free through November 4th. You have a lot of free resources. The Earth Gratitude books are free. And you do talk about this for days and days in terms of the work that you do with retreats and coaching and your various interviews and everything else. So I would encourage people to please go to your website, please stay in touch, and let's do our part to lift each other up and encourage each other to live our values and our actions and
Yeah,
to connect them.
and I would just say as a last thing, even though we're saying, look, you really need to do this, etc., this is the ABCs of money we should have all received in high school. Living a sustainable life, it's the way our grandparents lived. We have become, really addicted to kind of giving our power over to the products we buy. And again, even sometimes even just having habits that are going to be very easy to replace. So yes, it does require focus and energy and relearning things, but it's not laborious at all. And once you learn it, it becomes the way life is. And again, having that overarching thing of gratitude and treasuring our planet Earth gives us a sense of satisfaction, maybe even elation, as we make powerful, powerful choices to be the change we wish to see.
I love that so much. And on that note, I am grateful for your perspective and your words. Thank you
Oh,
so much, Natalie.
merci.
Mhm.